When it comes to NFL content here on YouTube, draft grades are far from a new concept. Some people talk about their favorite draft classes and their least favorite draft classes. Someone might have a channel that's specifically dedicated to one team and only focus on that team's draft class. Somebody, like I did last year, might talk about the 8 divisions and break all of their draft grades up into 8 videos. Somebody else might just talk about the draft in its entirety in one video and then move on. All of those are very valid and very effective ways of getting your message across and talking about the NFL draft. However, because I did not make nearly as much pre-draft content as I wanted to, because being a college student, watching film, trying to have a social life, trying to make videos, and not driving yourself crazy is not exactly a great recipe for success, I kind of failed with that. So I decided, hey, let's make 32 videos throughout the summer talking about the 32 draft classes, give each team their own designated video to justify all that work we did pre-draft. And initially I was going to do that throughout the month of May and then move on. That fell through the cracks. So we bled into June. Didn't get it done in June. So we bled into July, and here we sit on July 30th, and I am just barely halfway done because life is hectic. So because of that, we are going to bleed once again into the month of August and hopefully get these done before the season starts. In fact, we will get these done before the season starts. But before we get into our next team, whoever that may be, I do just want to say real quick, keep in mind, I'm not a professional. I am just a 21-year-old college kid who likes to spend the free time he has watching tape. So, if my opinion doesn't line up with your GM's or line up with yours, I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm not saying I'm better than your GM or that I know better than your GM. I just had a different takeaway, and people seem to like when I give my opinions about this stuff on the internet, so I'm going to continue doing it because it's fun, and it helps me get my points across, right? It's a lot of fun. I enjoy making these videos. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the Houston Texans and what they did during the 2024 NFL Draft. All right, so before we jump into this, I want to get one thing out of the way real quick, something I probably should have done a better job explaining over the last couple uploads, but wasn't something I thought about until it was brought up in my comments, and that is how I'm grading these picks. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is because early in the process, it was pretty apparent what I was doing. I was saying, hey, these are my pre-draft evaluations. This team took X player in this round, mixing my evaluation with where the player was selected and the fit. Here's how I think that'll pan out, right? Pretty self-explanatory when I was doing this back in May and June. Now we're in August. Now the preseason started. Was never my intent for this to happen, but life happened. Scheduling's been a mess. So here we are. We've got like 10 of these left. So for these last 10, I'm keeping that same process for my grading, right? I'm not taking into account, if say Jawar Jordan, who is my lowest graded player here, if he has some crazy preseason performance, that's not going to up my grade. Or if Blake Fisher looks like a complete turnstile in the preseason, that's not going to lower the grade. I wrote out my grades for every single pick starting right after the draft, within the first couple weeks after the draft, and I'm sticking to those for the sake of consistency and for the sake of fairness. Because if I were to up or lower a grade right now for a team I haven't done because of preseason or camp or whatever, that's not fair if a player that I had with a similar grade is doing the same exact thing or is better or whatever. So just for the sake of consistency, the sake of sticking to my guns, I'm keeping my same process. I brought this up because a lot of Titans fans in my last video were upset because I was talking about a specific player, and they all were like, hey, listen, the complaints you had with him off the field, it looks like that's not a problem. He's done great in camp. Like, that's great. Now I will say if a player's balling out in the preseason, I might make a comment like, hey, Jawar Jordan, he's looked real good. He's already starting to prove me wrong, because I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong here. But I think that's a very fitting theme for the Houston Texans with me, admitting when I'm wrong. That's your little transition into talking about the team as a whole, because last year I was one of the few, the proud, who had Tyree Wilson as Edge 1. And that was a lot of the potential. That was a lot of traits. And it was a lot of, hey, Will Anderson's really good, but I'm really concerned with his ability to finish plays, which I still think was a legitimate critique of his time at Alabama. However, one offseason with D'Amico Ryans, that wasn't a problem anymore. And all of a sudden, he's going on to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was incredible. Him and Danielle Hunter now are one of the best edge tandems in football. You know, I was wrong, and I will admit that, which, you know, that would have been my intro for this video had I not had to give that little disclaimer at the beginning. Would have just been an apology letter to the Texans organization and to Will Anderson more specifically, but I don't want to waste any more of your time than I already have. So, Texans, obviously in a great spot. Not much needs to be said about them. The upside with this team is incredible. They were way better than many expected last year because of their rookies stepping up. The culture is great. Houston football is, you know, a positive thing for the first time in a long time. However, with their draft grades, I do want to start out by talking about something that they've done that I really don't like. And maybe this could be something that ages poorly again. Who knows? But the Kamari Lassiter pick, not so much the pick itself, but them being in position to make this pick, I don't love. I really, really don't love. Because this was a stacked draft class at the top. The top end talent in the 2024 NFL draft was undeniable. The Texans were sitting at pick 23. They trade that and a 7th round pick to the Vikings for pick 42, a 6th, and a 5th or a 2nd round pick next year. They end up using that 6th to draft Jamal Hill, and we'll talk about him. I do not think Jamal Hill, Kamari Lassiter, and a future 2nd was worth trading out of a guy like Cooper DeJean, out of Nate Wiggins, out of, Ennis Rakestraw, if you really wanted a corner, which is understandable. I can see why this team would want to go after a corner. I think they would have been in a much, much better spot had they just stayed pat, taken one of them, and rolled with the picks they had. Because trading out of the first round, trading away from some of those big name corners, from some of the other big name players that were still on the board, is just wild to me. Like, especially to do it pre-draft. Like, it wasn't even like they did it on draft night. They did that before the draft. That's crazy to me. You didn't even wait to see how the board fell. I just think that's really bad process. And again, it could very easily work out for them. I still just don't think it's a great idea. Like, I went back and forth with this grade a little bit because I was going to ding them a lot more for it, but player you end up with, Kamari Lassiter, is solid. You know, Lassiter's a good enough corner. I will say this was a bit rich for me. I had a 4th round grade on him. It was my CB13. And a lot of that, I won't lie, is because of the athletic concerns. You know, he is not the greatest athlete. His testing wasn't fantastic. But you look at the other side of things, like, he's a very durable and dependable player. He's a high football IQ, very instinctive. He's really good at mirroring his matchup in man coverage because of quick feet and really good hips. He has good ball skills despite limited turnover production. He's a really, really good tackler, which I have to respect out of a corner. I love a corner that can tackle. He's, again, you know, the instincts really come into play with zone coverage, really good at passing off his assignments and then finding work. And he's somebody that has a lot of different experience at a lot of different places. Now, me personally, I think at the next level, because of that athletic limitation, he is best suited as a nickel. And I think he would absolutely be at his best as a nickel. I think he could be a really, really good nickel corner in the NFL. Looking at ESPN depth chart right now, it looks like they are planning on playing him on the outside. I don't love that. We'll have to see how he holds up. But, you know, he's got the personality. He was a vocal leader at Georgia last year. He's physical. He's smart. I can see why Houston likes him. He fits the identity D'Amico Ryans is going for, especially pairing him with Derek Stingley, who's also a very man-heavy corner. That makes sense. However, on the flip side of things, him being this physical, aggressive corner isn't exactly ideal when he's 5'11", 186 pounds. Like, you want to see him put on a little bit of weight, a little bit of muscle, which isn't the hardest thing to do, but that will come at the cost of a little bit of speed, most likely. And with a corner that isn't super athletic, that's concerning. He's very grabby in man coverage as well, which is concerning. He's not great at handling more complex release packages because of that lack of athletic ability. He's susceptible to holding penalties when he can't find the ball. He's going to support the run, like he's going to come up and try to make plays, but because he's so small, there are going to be times where he can just get swallowed up and not really make a major impact. And then, like I said, he has good ball skills, but he's not a turnover forcer very often. Like he's not great at forcing turnovers. You know, that's not a huge deal when you have guys like Stingley and Ward and Petrie in your secondary. You're fine. You know, if Lassiter is just the corner that comes in, plays physical, and keeps the ball out of the receiver's hands, you'll live with his turnover production not being super high. I really hope that they realize sooner rather than later he's a nickel. I think that is where he is best suited. And if he ends up playing nickel, I think this can be a very, very good pick for the Houston Texans. Again, still don't love the process, but if you walk out of it with a good player and you have a second-round pick next year, then it becomes a lot easier to stomach. Still would rather this be Nate Wiggins, you know, any of the other corners I named earlier, Nate Wiggins or Cooper DeJean or Ennis Rakestraw, 3 guys I think would have fit this spot perfectly. All 3 of them I think would be better as outside corners if that's really what you wanted, but we'll have to see how it plays out for him. I do think Lassiter is a good player. He fits what D'Amico likes. I see the vision, at least I can say that. And then we go to their other second-round pick. They end up taking Blake Fisher, the tackle out of Notre Dame. And I really liked Fisher. You know, there was all this talk about Joe Alt, right? He was this blue chip tackle everybody loved coming out of Notre Dame, and understandably so, right? Blake Fisher on the other side of the offensive line was also a really, really good lineman. He was somebody that I feel like should have gotten more credit, but he was kind of overshadowed by his teammate. Coming out as a redshirt sophomore, he's got the size, he's got the length, he's a good athlete. He has really good pad level in both run and pass blocking. He's very quick to reset his base against stronger pass rushers. He's really tough to beat inside due to his ability to recognize what pass rushers are trying to do, his foot speed, and just the way he aligns himself on the line of scrimmage. His ability to latch and mirror is above average, very, very solid there. He has impressive stunt and blitz awareness for someone coming out as a redshirt sophomore. Very good first step. His demeanor and awareness as a run blocker are off the charts. He's somebody that wants to bury people. When it comes to moving forward as a run blocker, he's very explosive. And again, just the big thing with him, redshirt sophomore, shockingly refined. You know, a lot more polished, a lot better in terms of technique and awareness and just overall skill than you would expect from someone with such limited playing time. Now, on the flip side of things, he is a little bit behind his peers in terms of development due to that lack of experience. He needs to work on how explosive he is going backwards, you know, jumping into his stance as a pass blocker. That's something he's shown a lot of promise there. It's just the consistency. He needs to polish up his footwork a little bit. And I don't think he's somebody that has like a super high ceiling. You know, there's a reason he was available in the second round. This isn't like a Tristan Wirfs right tackle type of player. You know, you look at the tackles that were taken in the NFL draft. I thought he was the 8th best one. You know, I had him over a guy like Tyler Guyton, who went in the first round. Like, I thought he was better than him. I think he's somebody that can play either tackle or guard. You know, he's got that flexibility because of the quickness, because of the IQ. I think he could kick inside if you wanted him to. Ideally, I would say you want to play him at right tackle. I would say he should be the goal should be for him to be the Titus Howard replacement long-term, which would be great. You know, you've got Tunsil, you've got Shaq Mason you just traded for. Juice Scruggs has shown a lot of potential. Kenyon Green is someone who you invested high draft capital in. You're still kind of waiting on the return there. But if Fisher could step in long-term for Titus Howard and just be a solid tackle opposite Tunsil, that could feed families, right? That could be an incredible pickup. I thought the value was great in terms of the pick. I had a mid-second round pick on him. You take him here or mid-second round grade on him, excuse me, and he was a late second round pick. So really good pick there. I like the Fisher pickup. I think he's somebody that has the chance to be a solid starter in the league for a long time. Then in the third round, they go on the defensive side of the ball again, taking another player in the secondary. That is USC safety Kalen Bullock. And this is one of those things, or one of those picks rather, where I am going to grade it higher than I probably thought I would have because of the fit. Because I gotta be honest, when I evaluated safeties this year, I watched 10 of them. Bullock was 7. I had a late 3rd, early 4th round grade on him, and he went right about here, but this wasn't a tremendous safety class, right? So I'm not going to make a big deal about Bullock going over a guy like Cam Kinchins, for example, because, like, yeah, I liked Kinchins a little bit more, but first of all, they're 2 completely different play styles. You know, you're looking at a single high safety versus somebody who plays a little bit of everything, and that is what you're bringing him in for. You know, this is your long-term Jimmy Ward contingency plan, right? He's not getting any younger. Great safety, but he's not getting any younger. He is, how old is he? Let's double check here. I know he's on the wrong side of 30. He's 33. Yeah, so he's not getting any younger. You need somebody that's going to be able to step in. Bullock absolutely has that potential. You have Jalen Petrie as your kind of do-it-all safety. Absolutely incredible football player. Taking a look at what Bullock does well, you know, he's somebody that just looks comfortable doing what you want a single high safety to do or a free range safety to do. He can play single high. He can play 2 high. He's really good at being able to just, you know, take part in disguising coverages and moving around pre and post snap. There's not a lot of man coverage on his film, but the little bit that there was, he was really good at forcing quarterbacks to make more difficult throws with his positioning. He's only going to be 21 years old when the season starts, which means that you don't have to rush him out. He has the room to grow and develop. He can be a good special teamer if you need him to. And he was a really good ball hawk in college. He had great ball production. That being said, he is not the biggest dude in the world. You know, looking at somebody that's only 188 pounds, he's another guy you probably want to see bulk up a little bit. He's not somebody that's going to try a whole lot in the run game. You know, he just kind of engages with a block and he's like, oh no, I've been blocked. Whatever will I do? And that's one of those reasons why I don't love Bullock, but that's not his job, right? You know, he's there to play coverage. He's there to play deep. He's not there to get down and dirty in the run game. That's what you have all those linebackers for. That's what you have Jalen Petrie for. That's what you have a guy like Kamari Lassiter for, right? Lassiter being a good tackler and aggressive player makes up for a guy like Bullock at safety. And, you know, his inconsistent physicality is going to prevent him from playing up in the box. But again, Petrie, you don't need him to play in the box. So I like the Bullock pick a lot more than I would for most other teams, just because I think this is the perfect landing spot for him. I think this is a place where his skill set will get to shine. He can use a little bit of that development, and who knows, that physicality, that toughness that I'm worried about, or not even toughness, that's a little far. I don't want to say he's not tough, because he made it to the NFL. He's tough. But the physicality and the aggressiveness, rather, is what I was looking for there. Those 2 things, maybe that comes with working with D'Amico Ryans. You know, maybe D'Amico gets in his ass and he's like, listen, if you're going to play on my ball team, you're going to want to fucking hit people. That's how we do things around here. And, you know, that could work. You know, we've seen guys who aren't exactly the most, how do I want to put this, the most energetic tacklers kind of get to the NFL and be like, all right, I gotta cut the shit, you know, gotta whip myself into shape here. So I think it's a solid pick. Sure, there's still safeties that I probably would have taken over him, but I like the fit. I like the pickup. Good for Houston. He's somebody that's going to be a fun developmental piece. As we get into day 3, the first pick here, Cade Stover, the tight end out of Ohio State. Love this pickup. Absolutely love this pickup. This was my 3rd tight end behind Brock Bowers and Ben Sinnott. Had a late 2nd round grade on him. You get him here in the 4th. I think that's tremendous value. You're getting yourself someone who has the build. You know, he's 6'4", 247 pounds. Very reliable. Didn't drop a single pass in 2023. More fluid and quick than you would expect for somebody at his size. Very active run blocker who takes pride in hitting people. He's somebody that, you know, will engage with a block. Running back gets past him, shed off of it, get to the 2nd level. You know, like he likes to stay with the flow of the play, keep up with what's going on, block as many guys as he possibly can. He has a very strong base to block when he's left in as a pass blocker. He has a pretty decent release for a tight end with adequate suddenness in his routes. Again, very high effort blocker. I have a lot about his blocking in my notes. That's just what I'm going off of here. He has natural instincts. He's really good at using his eyes to fake out defenders, and he knows how to find the open space in a zone and, you know, can sit down behind linebackers in coverage and make himself open. He has a very good feel for zone. That being said, this isn't Travis Kelce. right? This is a traditional inline tight end. This isn't somebody who's super dynamic, super twitchy, going to make a ton of plays after the catch. He's not a super fantastic separator. He's a little bit on the older side. He'll be 24 before he plays his first NFL game. He's somebody that runs routes a little upright. But listen, as a Bears fan, who my favorite player in football is Cole Kmet, who in my eyes is one of the 10 best players at the position as an inline tight end. Inline tight ends matter. Okay, not every tight end has to be this freaky athlete like a Travis Kelce or a Kyle Pitts or a Brock Bowers or whoever. They just need to be reliable. And Cade Stover is nothing if not reliable. In fact, I brought up Cole Kmet. An even better comparison for Cade Stover is right on your roster in Dalton Schultz. That is what Cade Stover is. Cade Stover is a younger, cheaper Dalton Schultz. Now, I know Schultz is extended, but long term, when Schultz starts to get up there, or, you can look at it as what's better than having one Dalton Schultz? Two Dalton Schultzes. And I would argue Stover has a higher upside than Schultz. So I think this is a great pick. The value was fantastic, giving them an A+, because it's something they needed. Adding another tight end is great. I love Brevin Jordan. He's not somebody that I like a lot on two tight end sets. He's more of a pass catcher than a blocker, really. More of like a wing tight end than an inline tight end. So having that second inline tight end to give yourself the ability to run some two tight end sets, I really like that. I think Stover is a great player. I think he's somebody that's super reliable. If something were to happen to Dalton Schultz, God forbid, knock on wood, he's somebody that I think can step in and, really, really soften the blow of him going down. So I think that's a great pick. As we move into the 6th round here with the pick they got from that trade I mentioned earlier with Kamari Lassiter, they take Jamal Hill, the linebacker out of Oregon. This isn't a pick that blows me away. As I said earlier, I still think they would have been better off staying put in the 1st round and taking one of the 1st round corners over Lassiter and Hill together. But looking at what Hill brings to the table, he is one of these traditional hybrid linebacker safety types. He is an athletic player that you're kind of taking a flyer on. Think, Christian Harris, you did the same thing with him coming out of Alabama. Hill is somebody that isn't going to be great in man coverage, but he's aggressive coming downhill, really, really short tackler. He's very patient and flexible when dropping back in zone coverage, very good at moving in space, good length, really, really good at jumping up and high pointing the ball and making plays. He's somebody that needs the development at the linebacker position, right? This is a gamble, and it's the 6th round. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the gamble's crazy. They're wasting a pick. It's the 6th round. You got an athletic freak, and if there's anybody I trust to teach a guy how to play the linebacker position, it's DeMeco Ryans. I mean, we've seen what he's done with a guy like Christian Harris. I really think this is a solid pick. I gave it an A- simply because I don't know if the Texans needed another linebacker. There's other positions I would have maybe looked at here. And then the other big thing for me is there's a linebacker that I will pound the table for was better here at this point, and that is Michael Barrett out of Michigan. Granted, different skill set, but I still think Barrett's somebody that would have benefited Houston. So it is what it is. Again, it's the 6th round. That's the only it's an A- and not an A because of that. That's the only minor critique. Hill's exciting. He's fun. He's athletic. He's somebody that I'm sure will make some big plays here and there. So can't complain, right? We'll have to see what DeMeco does. If he makes the roster, great. If he doesn't, no harm, no foul. And then their other 6th round pick, they take Jawar Jordan, the running back out of Louisville. Look, I don't have super strong thoughts on this one. My main complaint here is I wish they would have taken Dylan Laube. Really, 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 really wish they would have taken Dylan Laube. Just because I think he fits so much better for what this running back room doesn't have, and that's a true 3rd down scat back threat. Jawar Jordan can kind of be that, but Laube was just so much better at it. The running back out of New Hampshire, just a better player. You look at Jawar Jordan as a player, he's fine. Just an undersized back that's going to run hard and sees the field pretty well. But I'm not I'm not sold. He's not somebody that I think is great. Even if you didn't want to go with a traditional receiving back, a guy like Frank Gore Jr. even would have been a better pick here. I watched 15 running backs. Jordan was the worst of the bunch, in my opinion. He's going to be fine. He's somebody that probably won't make the team. If he does, I don't want to say I'd be surprised, because, his competition, I guess, isn't too crazy at the end of the rotation with J.J. Taylor, but just not a need. I think there are positions they could have went with that would have been better at this point, and I would have much rather have seen them take a different running back. That's where the grade comes from. It is what it is. Not the end of the world. Maybe this one's being a little nitpicky. I've got a B on it right now. Maybe I'll up it in post. I probably will. Just because now that I'm saying it out loud, B is like harsh. But it is what it is. He's fine. And then in the 7th round, they make 3 picks. I'll just say outright, Solomon Byrd out of USC. I did not watch. I have not watched. I know nothing about the guy. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. I'm not going to pretend. I have no clue. The only thing I can say is the USC defense was not very good last year. There was no one on that defensive line that really stood out to me. So, take that as you will. It's a 7th round pick. I'm sure he's got something that, again, I just don't know about. I probably should have done a little more research, but listen, at the end of the day, this guy might not make the roster. So, we'll have to see. Their other 7th round pick, or their second 7th round pick, rather. Goodness gracious. They take Marcus Harris, the defensive lineman out of Auburn. He's somebody I actually did watch. Really good first step. Really good at shooting gaps. Maintains leverage pretty well. Good lateral agility and good motor that allow him to win late into reps. He's an instinctive run defender who really enjoys shooting into the backfield and bringing down ball carriers. Really good range as a defender. He's able to hawk down ball carriers in run defense. He's got skill hand usage with flashes of pop at the point of attack. You want to see that a little bit more consistently. And he's got really good angle awareness, which is going to help him shoot gaps. As I said, pretty much that's his calling card. He's good at shooting gaps. On the other side of things, his length and his ability to get and maintain leverage, not ideal. He's not going to be great at handling double teams because he is an undersized defensive lineman at 6'2", 286. His gap discipline is a little bit inconsistent, and his plan as a pass rusher isn't great. As a 7th round pick, I think this is a good flyer to take. I like it. I think Harris is somebody that can be exciting as a developmental defensive lineman, again, if he makes the roster. If not, he's somebody I would definitely want to keep on the practice squad if I'm Houston. Has a lot of upside. And then Ladarius Henderson, the offensive tackle out of Michigan. Michigan won a national championship. A lot of it was because of their offensive line. Can't complain about that pick, but I didn't personally watch Henderson as a player. I don't know a whole lot about him, so I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. As I said at the top, I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to admit when I don't know something. Straight up, I don't know when it comes to Ladarius Henderson. So we'll have to see. If he makes the roster, great. If he doesn't, no harm, no foul. 249th pick in the draft. But as a whole, I like what Houston did. Not the perfect draft. Still really wish they would have stayed in the 1st round, but I think you've got at least 2 to 3 guys that can be consistent starters down the line for you. A couple solid depth pieces, some guys that are fun developmental players. I'm going to give them an A-. Again, not the perfect draft, not a great draft, but pretty damn good. I would say it's comfortably better than some of their division mates. When we get to Jacksonville, you'll see exactly what I mean. But this wasn't a draft that Houston really needed to nail, right? They kicked ass last year. They just needed to do good this year, and they definitely did so. Added some pieces to a team that is already really, really good at football. So, they're reloading, looking to go back to the playoffs, looking to get back to the promised land next year. And I got to say, I'm pretty confident in Houston being able to do that. And some of these guys will probably contribute along the way.
Had a chance on the throwback. This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder. Wow.
Using that